Cottagecore, princesscore, cybercore, the options kind of seem endless. If you tend to gravitate towards a certain style or aesthetic, there's a good chance TikTok has already coined a term for it. TikTok has really popularized the term core, which has been used to describe various trends in fashion and aesthetics. But a new one has recently popped up, Underconsumption core, and I have some thoughts on it. Underconsumption core has been a trend on TikTok where people show ways in which they try to consume less and live a more sustainable life. This includes limiting the amount of excess products they use and just reducing how much they purchase in general. It is a direct response to overconsumption, which if you have scrolled TikTok and are in generally the right demographic, you've probably seen on TikTok. From the thousands of fast fashion online shopping hauls to the influencers trying to showcase products for a quick buck, there's plenty of overconsumption content available on TikTok. In a way, this trend is good because I'm sure it's opening people's eyes of how wasteful overpurchasing can be, and can even inspire ways in which to live a more sustainable life. But on the other hand, I'm not really sure if it's enough to curb people's spending habits to actually make a significant difference. Now, it's interesting to note that underconsumption core is nothing groundbreaking. We have seen trends in the past where people gravitated more towards minimal living, such as the minimalism movement in the 60s and 70s, and even the influx of YouTubers showcasing minimalist living more recently, which I must say is very fun to watch because it's kind of insane to think that people actually live like that. But on the other hand, I can definitely be taking some notes for myself. But nevertheless, this new form of minimalism is definitely trending, and I've noticed two different takes on it. The first is the average person sharing their normal, not over-the-top spending habits, as well as items that they've used for years. They share how they are not purchasing multiple of the same item and typically only buy what's necessary for their lifestyle. While this practice could be driven by wanting to live a more sustainable life, I think another reason for it is simply just to save money. The second take on this trend is where more wealthy TikTokers show how they purchase fewer, albeit luxury items, and don't necessarily spend their money just because they have a lot of it. One could say they care more about the finer things in life, and of course, TikTok has coined another term for this, quiet luxury. This person isn't flaunting their wealth unlike some people, or spending crazy amounts of money just because they have it. Rather, they are showing that while they can afford these high prices, they don't overconsume just because they can. They buy items that can be worn multiple times, will probably last longer, and are timeless, so a couple years from now, they might still be able to wear it without looking like a trendy outfit from 2020. I might be a little biased when I say this, but I really do like the idea of buying more high quality pieces that can be worn in different ways and that will probably last longer in the long run. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying bright colors and prints. It is your personal style after all, but there's something about buying staple pieces that can be worn multiple ways without it looking like blatant outfit repeating that is just so alluring to me. I've personally been trying my best to buy longer lasting, high quality pieces, looking at the material composition, stitching, and really figuring out if I like the style or if it's just trendy. Sure, in order to practice true quiet luxury, you do kind of need to be in a higher tax bracket, or at least focus on buying fewer yet higher quality pieces and stay away from fast fashion. But if you can afford such spending habits, it seems like a no-brainer to go this route. While both sides of this trend ultimately highlight how they are not overspending based on their respective lifestyles, it's interesting to note how each take on this trend is a result of a different economic perspective. One is normal consumption catalyzed by the need to survive on a tighter budget, and the other is definitely more of a choice, aka they're not limiting their spending because they have to. Luxury consumption may not be over the top, but because they're wealthier, they can choose to spend money on higher quality items that will likely last longer. This is not to say that the same is not possible for those in a lower economic class. Quiet luxury is obviously a privilege to partake in, but it's definitely still possible to find quality pieces or even emulate the look at more affordable prices. It just takes a bit more effort and the ability to refrain from buying a whole new wardrobe every season from Shein. Yes, TikTok definitely plays a role in overconsumption today, but if you have already come to that realization, you aren't the problem. Influencers are literally profiting off of people who are addicted to this content. People who in some cases really should not be spending their money because honestly, it's beyond their means and keeping them broke. Like I said earlier, it's great that people are sharing this because it's directly attacking some of the biggest niches on TikTok, including but not limited to the excessive hauls and influencers showing their aesthetic yet excessive lifestyles. But if you really think about it, what people are highlighting through this trend isn't really underconsumption. Rather, what's been coined underconsumption is really just normal spending habits. Buying new shampoo only when it runs out and not having 5 shampoos in your shower is normal consumption. Buying every single shade of a blush or skincare product dropped by a company is not. We've just been conditioned to believe that we need to have the newest product, be a part of the latest fashion trend thanks to ads getting shoved in our face, and social media telling us that every product is a holy grail and will make our lives better, when it probably won't make our lives that much better, if at all. The average person does not have crazy spending habits as we see with influencers. Sure, there are outliers, like the people showcasing their 50 Owalas and Stanleys, which, side note, pretty much defeats the purpose of a reusable water bottle in the first place. But TikTok has created this new normal where it feels necessary to buy unnecessary items in order to make yourself seem more aesthetic, which again, really isn't that important. For example, buying a bunch of plastic or glass containers to transfer the ugly containers the products came in just for your house to seem pretty and organized. Also, buying hundreds of dollars worth of clothing from fast fashion companies just to wear it once or twice because you needed new fits for your upcoming vacation. Or they went out of style or started falling apart because it was literally made via forced labor for a couple cents in a matter of days. Okay, now I kind of understand the lure of buying new outfits when you are going on vacation. I get it, you want to look cute, and if you plan on taking pictures, you don't want to be looking like you've worn outfits that you've already documented. But there comes a point where I'm sure there's something in your closet that'll suffice for a couple outfits. And don't get me started with weddings. What do you mean I have to buy a new dress for every wedding that I attend? I mean, I don't have to, but it sure does feel like it. So I'm definitely ranting a bit now, but this is all just to say that we are being conditioned into believing that all of this consumption is necessary if we want to feel more organized and successful in our own lives. And then along comes this little trend showing ways in which people underconsume to support sustainability, when in reality, it's just normal people living their normal lives. I'm not saying that this trend is problematic. Like I said multiple times, it's great that people are showing ways in which they are trying to be more sustainable and purchase less. But I think it's interesting how this view of underconsumption is being seen more as a trendy aesthetic, because it really should be more of a lifestyle. With this in mind, I'm inclined to believe that at least some of the content that we are seeing is performative. There's no way all of these influencers are actually practicing what they preach. I mean, I've definitely seen some content where people pretend to be environmentally conscious by downsizing their makeup collection, but then they continue to receive PR from companies that come in lavish packaging that will probably expire way before they even have a chance to finish it. And that doesn't quite follow the essence of underconsumption. Or from a more attainable perspective, buying new products long before the current one is empty. It's one thing to be actually environmentally conscious and actively try to work towards living a more sustainable life. But hopping on to make a performative video of how you're doing that just seems really icky to me.
Brother, ugh.
But who knows? Maybe they do actually care. Props to the influencers that know that they're the exact opposite of the trend and make fun of themselves for their over-the-top spending habits. At least they're honest. The underconsumption core trend on TikTok reflects a growing awareness of our consumption habits, but it's important to recognize that much of what's being labeled as underconsumption is actually just normal mindful spending habits. While it's encouraging to see people embracing more sustainable and intentional purchasing behaviors, we should be cautious of how trends can sometimes mask deeper issues, such as corporations brainwashing the public into thinking buying more solves all of your problems, or the underlying privilege that allows some to opt for quiet luxury. Underconsumption core should not be a short-lived trend that showcases an aesthetic. True change requires a broader shift in mindset, one that values quality over quantity, long-term sustainability over short-lived trends, and authenticity over appearances. What are your thoughts on underconsumption core, and what are ways in which you try to live a more sustainable life? I want to know. Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, that's all for now. Talk to you later.